Before you make any decision, any life-altering choice, you must first master this one secret. And the top 1% knows it, guard it, and live by it. But the masses, they ignore it, dismiss it, or worse, they never discover it at all. So I will ask you a question, one that may stir discomfort, one that reveals your future. Do you make your decisions based on fear or faith? Because your answer to that one question will determine not just your results, but the entire course of your life. The majority move reactively. They decide under pressure, out of urgency, from emotional turbulence, or from the influence of others. They chase convenience. They avoid pain. They trade purpose for peace of mind and then wonder why fulfillment never comes. But the 1%, the ones who live with precision, clarity, and power, they think differently. They pause. They consult something higher, something most overlook. They access what I call infinite intelligence, that higher faculty of mind where decisions are not guessed, they are revealed. Now let me be absolutely clear, this is not mysticism. This is not wishful thinking. It is a discipline of thought, a mastery of the internal dialogue, a tuning of your mind to the frequency of truth. The 1% do not merely act, they align. Before every major decision they ask, is this in harmony with my definite major purpose? Because if it's not, no matter how exciting it appears, it is a distraction. You see, the world is not suffering from a lack of opportunity. The world is suffering from an epidemic of misaligned action. People are busy but not effective, moving but not progressing, successful but not fulfilled. And why? Because they never learned how to decide with power. So what is the secret? The secret is this. The most powerful decisions are made from silence, not noise. Silence is where the 1% listen to the wisdom that the busy world cannot hear. Silence is where your subconscious mind speaks, where fear quiets, where your real desire surfaces, where you remember who you are, not who the world told you to be. Before I ever put pen to paper or tongue to decision, I enter the stillness. And in that stillness, I consult the source of all knowledge, the place where infinite intelligence resides. You have access to this place. But to reach it, you must escape distraction. You must retreat from the crowd. You must silence the doubters, both outside and inside. Understand this principle deeply. Every time you act without alignment, you move farther from your destiny. But every time you decide from stillness, you magnetize miracles. Because when your mind is still, truth rises, and truth never shouts. It whispers, and only the still can hear it. So, I ask you today, what is your decision-making process? Do you flip a coin? Do you poll your friends? Do you wait until emotion boils over and then react? Or do you pause? Do you sit in the quiet and ask, does this serve the future I'm building? Is this the next right step on the path to my vision? Am I choosing from conviction or from convenience? Because here's another truth the 1% know. Convenience is the enemy of greatness. The right decision is rarely the easiest. It often demands courage, delay of gratification, sacrifice, and discomfort. That's why most avoid it. But that's also why few ever rise. Let me give you the real framework, what I've taught to leaders, entrepreneurs, pioneers of every era. When faced with an important decision, 1, clarify your definite purpose. If you do not know where you're going, no decision will lead you there. Clarity is power. Write your chief aim. Revisit it daily. Let it anchor you in stormy moments. 2, enter silence. Not 10 seconds. True silence. Disconnect from the noise. Sit with yourself. Observe your thoughts. Ask the question and wait. The answer will come not from panic, but from peace. 3. Reject fear-based logic. Fear wears many disguises. It shows up as logic, practicality, or timing. But underneath it all, it is still fear. If fear's driving the decision, pause. Reframe it. Ask, what would I do if I believed in my power fully? 4. Trust your higher mind. Your subconscious is always working. Your job is to feed it with your desires and trust the process. When you program your mind with purpose, your decisions begin to align automatically. And that's when momentum is born. 5. Act immediately upon the right answer. Do not wait. Procrastination is the assassin of inspired action. Once your decision is clear, move. Begin. Make the call. Send the message. Take the step. The universe rewards decisive energy. Now, let me be very direct with you. Your entire life can change by mastering this process, because your life is nothing but a sequence of decisions. And when you upgrade the quality of those decisions, you upgrade the quality of your destiny. And I must say this too. The biggest danger is indecision. Indecision breeds confusion. Confusion breeds inaction. Inaction breeds regret. Regret breeds bitterness. And bitterness is where dreams go to die. So even if you make the wrong decision, it is better than no decision. Because movement creates clarity. Action reveals truth. And progress builds belief. The top 1% don't wait for perfect clarity. They move with aligned intention. They know that perfection is not the starting line, it is the result of momentum. You don't need to know every step. You just need to know the next one. And that next step, it's inside you now. You're not lost. You're not confused. You're just surrounded by noise. So step back. Step inward. Let the fog clear. Let the doubt dissolve. And in that quiet, you'll hear it, the whisper, the knowing, the power that's always been guiding you. That's infinite intelligence. That's where the top 1% go before they move. Not to people, not to polls, not to fear, but to purpose. And when you learn to do the same, your decisions will not only lead to success, they'll lead to peace. Because there is no greater success than the kind born from inner alignment. Now take this truth, sit with it, practice it, live it. Because once you do, you'll never again doubt your next move. And soon others will look at your life and wonder, how did they always make the right decisions? And you'll know the answer. You didn't guess. You didn't hope. You aligned. And alignment, my friend, is the true secret of the 1%. Let us now go deeper. You already understand that every decision is a fork in the road. But what separates the top 1%, those who rise, build, and endure, is not that they have access to more opportunity. It is that they make fewer careless choices. They don't act from fear. They don't act from desperation. They don't act from pressure. They act from clarity. And clarity only arrives when the mind is trained to pause before proceeding. This pause is not passive. It is not avoidance. It is a deliberate act of power. When the average mind rushes to action, the extraordinary mind retreats, not to escape, but to examine. The top 1% pause before deciding because they have developed the sacred habit of tuning inward before they act outward. They consult what I call the silent counsel, the voice within. That still inner conviction that whispers truth, not based on noise, but on principle. But make no mistake, this voice cannot be heard in a mind filled with clutter. It cannot be felt in a heart filled with fear. It must be cultivated. It must be respected. And it must be protected from distraction. The masses chase answers from the outside. The elite create space to receive them from the inside. That space, that's the secret. You must make room for wisdom to speak. In my teachings, I've referred to this invisible force as infinite intelligence. It is the field from which all answers come, the source of all truth, the creative power that aligns your subconscious with your definiteness of purpose. The top 1% do not hope that decisions turn out well. They design decisions through harmony with this intelligence. They do not guess. They receive. And this receiving begins with stillness. Ask yourself, when was the last time you made a major decision without anxiety, without noise, without someone else's voice echoing in your head? You cannot build a legendary life by following directions from people who settle for average. You must learn to hear your own internal compass. But that compass only functions when calibrated by clarity. And clarity comes from alignment between your values, your vision, and your vibration. If your values are unclear, your decisions will be reactive. If your vision is scattered, your choices will be inconsistent. If your vibration is low, polluted by fear, anger, or scarcity, your results will be chaotic. But when your values are solid, when your vision is precise, when your vibration is high, calm, and focused, then the secret emerges. You stop guessing. You stop chasing. You begin attracting the right answers at the right time. That is not magic. That is alignment. The top 1% are not more talented than you. They are more trained in creating alignment before taking action. Now let's move from theory to practice. Before any major decision, pause. Step away from the pressure. Step away from the crowd. Step away from the noise. Get still. Get centered. And then ask the most powerful question I've ever discovered. Is this in harmony with my definite purpose? Not, does this feel good right now? Not, will they approve? Not, what if I fail? But is this in harmony with the reason I was placed on this earth? If the answer is yes, proceed with boldness. If the answer is no, walk away without apology. That single filter can eliminate years of wasted time, because you don't need more information. You need stronger filters. The top 1% say no more than they say yes, not because they're arrogant, but because they are obsessed with alignment. They know that every yes is a commitment of energy. And energy is your most valuable asset. When you give your yes too freely, you dilute your impact. But when your yes is rooted in purpose, it becomes unstoppable. Now, let me speak to the battle that many face during the decision-making process. Fear. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of missing out. Fear of judgment. Understand this. Fear is not your enemy, it is a signal. Fear shows up where your faith has not been built. And in the top 1%, they use fear as a map, not a stop sign. They ask, why is this fear here? What belief is it exposing? What lesson is it offering? They never let fear have the final word. Because the moment fear dictates your decision, you have already surrendered your power. But the moment you confront it, name it, question it, override it, you grow. And growth is always the real win, regardless of the outcome. You want to reach the top 1%? Then stop seeking perfect choices and start making courageous ones. Because progress favors the bold, not the flawless. And there is no success without risk. But there is peace in knowing that your decisions are based on internal clarity, not external pressure. Here's another technique the 1% use. Visualization. Before they act, they see the decision unfold. They visualize the consequence. They walk through the outcome in their imagination. They don't just imagine success, they imagine alignment. And they evaluate, will this bring me closer or further from my highest self? If closer, they commit. If further, they release it. They do not wrestle with confusion for weeks or months. They've trained their mind to respond quickly because they've trained it to think clearly. And clarity is a byproduct of inner order. Which brings me to your daily habits. You cannot expect wise decisions from a disordered life. You must create the conditions that make wisdom available. That means early mornings. That means clean inputs. That means disciplined thinking. That means space, mental, emotional, spiritual. You cannot tap into infinite intelligence if your mind is constantly reacting. So build a life that invites wisdom, that attracts clarity, that supports decisive action. And finally, understand this. Decision is the pathway to destiny. No great man ever became great by avoiding decisions. He became great by deciding who he was and aligning every move with that identity. So today I ask you, not what will you do, but who will you become? Because once you become clear on that, every decision becomes obvious. And success stops being a pursuit. It becomes a consequence, a byproduct, the natural result of living in harmony with who you were created to be. That is the real secret of the top 1%. If you followed me this far, then you already understand that the difference between success and failure rarely lies in circumstances, it lies in decisions. And the quality of your decisions is directly related to the quality of your thinking. But there is something more, something deeper that the top 1% understand. Before they make a life-changing decision, they consult a power greater than logic, a power deeper than intellect, a force more accurate than probability. That force is what I call infinite intelligence. Now pause right here, because if you do not learn to connect to this source, you will forever be trapped in surface-level decisions, logical on the outside, but blind to the deeper currents of truth. Infinite intelligence is not a metaphor. It is not some vague spiritual fluff. It is the essence of all wisdom, all guidance, all inner knowing. And it can be accessed, but only by those who train themselves to listen. The masses rush into choices. They analyze the data, listen to the crowd, and react. But the few, the top 1%, they retreat inward first. They silence the world. They tune into their own vibration. They listen to the whisper that never lies. Here's the principle before making any major decision. Align with your higher self. Because when your soul is aligned, your decision becomes clear. That's why I've taught for decades that definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement. But definiteness alone is not enough. You must also develop the inner discernment to know when, where, and how to move. And that requires more than strategy. It requires stillness. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is supreme power. It is the state in which infinite intelligence speaks loudest. When you cultivate inner silence, you can see through distractions, detect deception, and feel the resonance or dissonance of every opportunity. That feeling is not to be dismissed. It is your most accurate compass. Logic can be tricked. Emotions can be manipulated. But resonance cannot lie. That's why I always say, when you are uncertain, pause, but do not panic. Sit with a question. Ask the right inner prompt. Is this aligned with my purpose? Not, will this make me money? Not, will this impress people? But, will this decision serve my mission long term? You must become a master at asking questions that pierce illusion. Because the secret is not in having all the answers. The secret is in asking better questions. Questions that open up the channel to your subconscious mind. And when your subconscious is properly directed, it becomes your servant, your radar, your guide. Remember what I taught. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief must be cultivated. And belief is born from internal confirmation. That is why when you are connected to infinite intelligence, you are no longer making decisions alone. You are partnered with the source. And now, let me be direct. Most people never reach this level. Why? Because they do not trust themselves. They outsource every decision to the world around them. They poll opinions. They wait for consensus. They fear going against the grain. And so they live lives of quiet hesitation. But the 1%, they move differently. They understand that before you make the external leap, you must make the internal alignment. Every major move must be blessed by your intuition. And your intuition strengthens the more you obey it. The more you ignore your intuition, the more you weaken it. The more you second guess, the more it fades. But the more you act on your inner knowing, the stronger, louder, and more precise it becomes. Think about it like this. Infinite intelligence is always transmitting. But if you're surrounded by mental noise, emotional chaos, and endless distractions, your reception will be poor. You'll misread signals. You'll take wrong turns. You'll miss the truth that was right in front of you. So here's your action. Clean the mental clutter. Disconnect to reconnect. Spend time daily in quiet reflection. Create a sacred space in your mind where only truth is allowed to speak. Ask for guidance. Expect the answer. And move in faith when the answer comes. Most people ask, but do not listen. Or they ask and then doubt what they hear. But you must be different. When you ask for wisdom, trust that it is given. Even if it arrives in whispers, symbols, sudden clarity, or a shift in energy, pay attention. The world teaches urgency. The elite practice discernment. They know that one aligned decision can do more than 100 forced actions. Because when you act from alignment, you are no longer pushing, you are being pulled. Pulled by purpose. Pulled by clarity. Pulled by a momentum that cannot be explained by logic alone. Let me remind you of a truth I uncovered during my years of research. Every man I studied who achieved extraordinary success credited their success not merely to skill, but to instinct, divine instinct. They called it gut feeling, hunch, inner voice. I call it a direct download from infinite intelligence. And when it is honored, it leads to breakthroughs that strategy alone could never provide. So let me speak to you now directly as your mentor. Stop rushing. Stop reacting. Stop chasing the opinions of people who do not live your purpose. Your greatest power lies not in external validation, but in internal conviction. You already know more than you think. You already sense what is right. You already feel the pull toward your path. Now, your job is to eliminate the interference. Cut off the noise. Silence the distractions. And sit with the truth until it speaks. Because once it does, there is no room for doubt. You will move with the calm certainty of a man guided by something greater than his own mind. And people will feel it. They will sense it. They will respond to your certainty not with resistance, but with open doors. Because the universe does not reward chaos. It rewards clarity. And clarity is born in communion with infinite intelligence. Say this now. I trust my inner knowing. I listen before I leap. I consult my highest self before I commit. And when I know, I move. Let this become your pattern, your ritual, your secret weapon. You will begin to make faster decisions with fewer regrets. You will stop overthinking and start executing. You will feel a peace that does not depend on applause because you are aligned. And when you are aligned, you are unstoppable. Now, we've arrived at the place most never reach, not because it's hidden, but because most simply stop too soon. They quit listening to the whisper of their own soul. They let urgency override intuition. And so they missed the very secret that separates the top 1% from everyone else. The top performers, the elite decision makers, the ones who move through life with certainty while others are stuck in confusion. What is this secret? They do not act without alignment. They do not rush because others are moving fast. They do not react because emotions are flaring. They do not respond because the crowd is watching. They pause. They go within. They consult something higher, deeper, quieter, and that stillness is what guides their decision. The masses will tell you success is about being the loudest, the quickest, the boldest. But I tell you now, true power does not shout, it resonates. Does not force, it aligns. And that kind of power only comes from one place, inner harmony. If your mind is cluttered, your decisions will be contaminated. If your emotions are inflamed, your path will be distorted. And if your spirit is disconnected, your success will be hollow. So here's the secret. Before you make any important decision, clear your field. Remove the noise. Silence the outside opinions. Slow down your racing thoughts. Interrupt your emotional impulses. And ask the question, what is most aligned with who I am becoming? That question alone can save you years of detours. Alignment is not convenience. It is not comfort. It is not what others approve of. It is what feels undeniably right in your core, even if it makes no logical sense to others. Even if it stretches you. Even if it costs you something. Especially if it costs you something. Now hear me clearly. Alignment is not about waiting for perfection. It's about anchoring into truth. And the truth is this. Your intuition knows. Your spirit knows. Your inner voice already knows. You are not as confused as you pretend to be. You are simply afraid to act on what you already feel. But I did not write, Think and Grow Rich to coddle your fear. I wrote it to awaken your decision. Success demands that you stop outsourcing your knowing. Stop crowdsourcing your future. Stop asking for permission to trust yourself. You must develop the rarest kind of confidence, the kind that does not need applause, approval, or agreement, the kind that is rooted in spiritual authority, not social consensus. And you cannot fake this. You can fake motivation. You can fake enthusiasm. You can even fake confidence. But you cannot fake alignment. The world will always reflect who you are, not who you pretend to be. So if your life feels stuck, if your goals feel far, it is not because success is being withheld. It's because the current version of you is not yet aligned with the outcome you say you want. To shift this, you must go deeper. Every morning, ask yourself, what am I tolerating that's out of alignment? What decision am I postponing? What relationship is draining me? What habit is sabotaging me? What belief is limiting me? And then take action. Ruthless action. Not to fix the world, but to clean your inner house. Until the inside is congruent, the outside will always feel chaotic. Remember, the top 1% do not merely make bold decisions. They make clear ones. And clarity comes from stillness. You cannot hear the voice of wisdom in a cluttered, chaotic mind. That is why you must create stillness. You must have sacred time where the world cannot reach you, where no one's voice matters but your own, where your thoughts settle and your soul speaks. It may be in prayer, in meditation, in writing, in silence, but it must exist. If you don't create it, you'll live your life reacting to pressure instead of responding to purpose. Let me leave you with this final truth. Every decision you make is either moving you closer to power or further from it, closer to peace or deeper into confusion, closer to the future you were designed to live or back into the past you've already outgrown. And so I ask you one last time, not as a teacher but as a fellow traveler. Are you aligned? Are your thoughts aligned with your goals? Are your words aligned with your values? Are your actions aligned with your identity? Because the moment they are, everything begins to accelerate. The right people find you. The right doors open. The pressure lifts. The fog clears. And you no longer chase success. You attract it. Not because you followed a formula, but because you finally became undeniably you. That is the real secret. Not just the decision you make, but the place inside you from which you make it. And when that place is rooted in peace, clarity, and truth, the results are inevitable. The top 1% do not guess. They know. They do not hope. They decide. They do not follow the noise. They follow the knowing. And now, you can too. Start now. You already know what to do. The only question left is, will you trust it?